Vida Tennis, the podcast for those of us who eat, sleep, breathe tennis. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Robyn Duda, co-founder and managing director of RacquetX. Robyn is an award-winning event strategist who has worked for some of the most recognized brands in the world like Coca-Cola, Spotify, Visa, and IBM. She's the founder of Robyn Duda Creative, which is an event management firm, and the Change the Stage initiative, which looks to elevate underrepresented voices in events. She has a wealth of experience in event management and public speaking, and she went to Muhlenberg College and lives in Atlanta. Welcome, Robyn, to Vida Tennis.
Well, I eat, sleep, and like you eat, sleep, and breathe racket sports. I eat, sleep, and breathe event.
Nice. So what's your story before we get going into all the racket sports? What's your story? What's your tennis or racket story? I don't know. I'm guessing you play tennis, or do you play any other sports?
Not well. I'm very happy that Atlanta's got its first paddle club that I could start to go to, though, although it's not super close. They're opening one about 10 minutes away because I think that of course I play with family and friends, pickleball, etc. Tennis, I would say I never really caught my groove, took lessons for a while, although I wish I were better than I was. Or that I am, and I'm really excited that paddle's going to be here because I've been playing in Miami a little bit when I'm down there getting ready for RacquetX. So, but I've been an athlete my whole life. I grew up with a basketball in my hand for the most part, and my story is very basketball centric, and I've been a runner and avid yogi for a very long time. But I'm a fan of all sports, particularly racket sports. They're extremely fun to watch, enthusiast, but at its heart, I'm an event gal.
So now you play padel.
When I can, Atlanta just got, and I'm still a newbie because it's still new here. I'm not good at any of these racket sports. I'm not playing. You're not going to see me be a superstar by any means, but I think they're really fun. They unite, and I love that, especially pickleball. I love the inclusiveness of it, that you can play anywhere, you can play with anyone for the most part. You can be super competitive, or you could just be really casual about it. And there's not a huge learning curve there, and I think that's really fun.
Yeah. And so why RacquetX then? You're in events, you could go into do all kinds of events. Why in particular rackets?
Yeah, I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I had been consulting for my business and doing consulting work for the last 6 now, but 5 years prior to kind of jumping in on the RacquetX endeavor. And investors who I know, and they happen to be in the space. One's an event tech investor, my co-founder, Michael Ghiberti. He had some investors who were investing in the racket sports space. They noticed that there was no place that everyone gathers. There are your associations, which do a great job in their specific niches. There are tournaments that you can go to, but there was no place that truly united both the players and the makers across all the different racket sports. And they came to me and they said, do you want to do what you do here for the racket sport world? And I was like, yeah, of course I do. So that's how this all came to be. There's some clear white space here. It seems like our early trajectory is that the industry is really into what we're putting together and excited about it. There's been explosive growth in the industry, and I'm a connector, and I know how to create and design moments that get people to further connect. And in this case, we want everyone to continue to grow. Like I said, racket sports are on the rise. We want to make sure that we do our due diligence to help keep it on the upward trajectory by creating content that maybe is a little bit different, that's talking about the broader sports arena, and hearing from different industries and different sports about how they've both succeeded and failed in places that where many of the racket sports are now.
I love it. I mean, I can geek out all day on all things rackets. I'm in this world, so I'm super excited to hear that. And
hopefully have some fun too, is the plan. We're building 9 courts out, which is no small feat. We're building 4 paddle courts, which is not going to be easy, by 4 different court builders, a full tennis court, 3 pickleball courts, and the last court, we had intended it to be squash, but squash courts are extremely difficult and expensive to put in. So we're figuring out what the 9th court will be. So TBD on that. But yeah, you're going to be able to do clinics. Brands are going to have product demos. We're going to have some really fun surprises. There'll be some open play time as well. So maybe if you haven't played one of the sports, you're a loyalist to one, you can see some really good people play, or you can get on the court with a 101 and an instructor and maybe learn a little something.
Yeah, maybe let's backtrack a little bit, because maybe someone hasn't heard of RacquetX. I mean, I've obviously heard of it. It's a brand new event. Can you maybe just introduce it, just say exactly what it is and who's it for?
Absolutely. So RacquetX is both business and consumer event. It's in Miami, March 24th to the 26th. We are lucky enough to be right in the middle of the Miami Open timeframe. So it's a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday during the busier middle week of the Miami Open.
Mm-hmm.
We also have the APP Pickleball Miami Open, which is one of their largest. It's going to be in the convention center. We're at the Miami Beach Convention Center. They're going to be next door to us in the convention center having their Miami Open. Their championship day will be Sunday, which is our opening day. And then we're going to have a paddle tournament as well. So it's for both businesses and consumers. So if you're a fan, a coach, a player, an enthusiast, or you own a club, you're an operator of a club, a university or school, parks and recs, investors in the space, and real estate developers and HOAs, there will be content and activities for everyone.
That's exciting. And is there anything specific for coaches? Why should coaches in particular be interested in attending?
Yeah. Discovery is a big piece of this. And I can't announce yet because it's not official, but there will be some coaching associations that will have a presence there. I'm sure you could imagine the coaching associations that I'm referring to. They'll have a presence and they're going to be doing some things with us. But there'll be discovery of new products. There will be new rackets, new apparel lines. There'll be some new technology that we're featuring on our different courts. So things like that will be really interesting for everyone to kind of take hold of. And then, of course, content, future of coaching, player development, and just the future of the sport in general will be there. We're partnered with associations, you name it. I feel like they're there between USA Pickleball will be represented. We got USA Racquetball, the coaching associations across the board through a lot of different publications will be there as well.
That's so cool. And which racket sports are represented at RacquetX?
Well, the three majors, we hate saying that because I like treating them all fairly, but pickleball, paddle, and tennis, of course. There will be some squash presence there, as well as racquetball. And then pop tennis will be there, cardio tennis will be there. There'll be some red ball tennis for newbies and beginners. The USTA is bringing table tennis. We'll have some table tennis tables and some of the folks there for that. And I think we're trying to work badminton in somehow, but I'm not sure how that's gonna look.
Nice. Oh, you need to work in beach tennis.
I know, well, there may be something beach tennis. It's gonna be very hard to bring all the sand in to the convention center. We may try and do something at a beach, but TBD and more to come on that. I will certainly let you know once that's been finalized, but we're working potentially on some little activity.
Yeah, beach tennis is so fun. You should play it sometime.
And I hear it's very popular.
It is. It's very popular, but yes, you kind of need the sand, the beach, and you're only going to find it in places that have beaches, but it's a really, really fun one. Have you been I know I saw you at the PGA show in Orlando, which I was so happy to see some racket representation there. That was awesome. I felt like, I found my little place where I belong at the PGA show. So that was awesome. But have you yourself been to any tennis or rackets conferences that where you could tell like this is what will be different at RacquetX?
No. Tournaments, yes, of course, tournaments across the board, but haven't been to many or any of the conferences in those spaces. I mean, I've looked at them. This is what I do for a living, is consult and assess. So I've been to most of their websites. We're not trying to be competitive to anything that exists. Like I said, for the association side of things, they put on some really great conferences and they go very deep, and we're partnered with all of them. So there'll be some content that comes in that they're helping us develop to a certain extent, or at least a session, like the American Sports Builder Association. They're putting on 2 panels for us, but everything is different than what you'd see at one of those conferences. There's a different lens. Everything is very challenging the future forward, and focused on growth. So I will say that.
Okay. And what would you say has been the biggest challenge taking on this huge project that you decided to be a part of?
And I don't like to go small. It's like go big or go home. So the biggest, we're building out like 140,000 square feet of space for a year 1 launch. May or may not sound like a lot, but it's a lot. It's big. And building 9 courts in 3 days, for 3 days, and then tearing them down in 1.5 is not going to be it's going to be
oh my gosh.
Gonna be a challenge.
Yeah, I did ask you this when I saw you said this is outdoors, right? Or indoor?
Oh, it's inside.
Oh, it's inside. So it's like on a carpet.
It's concrete. So all the court builders have to bring in their flooring as well. Yeah.
Oh, so it's gonna be like actual like hard court?
Oh, it's like real, everyone's, court builders or this is their showcase. So this
Oh,
is, there's a different court builder for each of the courts who want to showcase it to different clubs, investors, real estate developers, you name it, who might want to purchase a court. So they're going all out on their courts.
oh, that's awesome. So it's
So,
inside the convention center and you're putting up all these courts inside the convention center.
yeah.
Oh, okay, I get it. Now I can picture it. Okay, I got
The
it.
build out is gonna be a challenge for
Yeah.
sure. We're up for it. I've been doing this for a while, so I'm sure things will go wrong, but no one will ever see. But we do really well in events. Challenge has been, I mean, time, again, building events is so fun and frenetic and chaotic and amazing. Learning the ins and the outs of the industry, like the industry side of this, simultaneously learning all the different sports and all the different players within each of those, on top of the club side of it, the real estate side of it, so that at least we can speak intelligently and understand who some of the voices were that needed to be heard in these different segments were. Certainly was a challenge. I think we put together a really good team who has tackled that and bringing in just some really different stuff. But just the sheer size of this, between probably close to 40-45 sessions that we're going to be having. All the courts are being programmed. So think of that as almost like 8 hours of content per court for 9 courts per day that we're organizing and orchestrating, plus all the other little things that are little fun stuff that's going to happen, like the podcast studio that hopefully you'll be able to podcast from,
Yeah,
live the show, etc. It's certainly a challenge from just a build up standpoint and sheer
of
just
course.
the industry. And then getting, like I said, getting to know the ins and the outs of the industry, which I think we're getting there.
Yeah. How long has it been in the making? Has it been a year? I'm guessing longer than that.
No, it should have, yeah, it was since April of last year was when we decided to go. So not even a full year we've had. So yeah, it's been a night and day making this thing come to life. So I really hope that everyone enjoys it.
So what's the dream? Where do you see it going in the future? Is this something you want to have every year? What's the
Yeah,
vision?
for sure want this to be an annual event. That's the plan. And part of what's so fun about events is you get to plan the next year before the year happens, so that we can announce what's happening in 2025, hopefully. So while we haven't had a show yet, I'm already planning the next one. At the
Oh, you
same time.
are?
Yeah, you got, so an annual show, and then we'll see about in the US, we would probably only have one of these, is my guess, but there's always potential expansion beyond the US. But for right now, I want to get through 2024, have it be a really solid year, continue to grow it in the years to come.
Okay. And then what are your thoughts on this whole, integration of all the different racket sports? Because I mean, you guys are probably one of the first ones. It tends to be like they're all separate and everyone takes a lot of pride in their own kind of sport, and they kind of put the other one down, and I do that sometimes too. I'm not going to pretend I don't. So what do you think about like how we can integrate all of it and we can all be friends?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's just two things. One, rising tides lift all boats or ships. So if one is growing, you have to hope that if you have a racket in one hand, you have a paddle in another, and that momentum, that if you love one, it's not exclusive, that you can play all of them. Does all of them have to be your main sport? Do you have to switch? No, but you can be flexible in that, and I think that there's beauty in that. And the competition of the different types of people that you can play in each of these sports with. And you could have a table tennis or a ping pong table in your house, but that doesn't mean that you don't love tennis anymore. And then I think for us, looking at the industry, the buying patterns, the way different brands, they're getting into multiple racket spaces. So while yes, there are some brands that are just dedicated to tennis or to pickleball or to, X, Y, and Z, many of them and what we're trying to shine a light on too, and we're going to be doing some research on this, the consumer side of this and what the opportunity is for someone to buy who might be interested in multiple sports. And there's a lot of growth opportunity there for sure. But looking at it horizontally, and it's that, okay, well, you might be pickleball and you might be tennis, and maybe we think that, there isn't space for both of you because one's taking courts from the other, et cetera, et cetera. Right. We still all can learn from each other, but from, like I said, from the outside. And we're trying to take the lens where there's no tennis track, there's no pickleball track, there's no this, it's like everything is, you can be in any one of the sports and hear about how AI is shaping and what's happening in the coaching world around AI. And at the sport that you're coaching, that session is still applicable to you. And we hope that there's unity in hearing these broader messages that could affect our industry that you can then kind of connect on as in part of your world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that you mentioned technology. I think that's what I'm most excited about. I think about RacquetX is seeing, just good technology and even event technology, right? Because that has advanced too.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite advances, I guess, in technology when it comes to events? Like, just at the PGA, like now they scan your barcode. Like I thought that was pretty cool. Is there anything like that with RacquetX, or which one's your favorite?
Yeah, we have invested, I've used them in the past. There's an AI-based event app that we will be launching a couple weeks out from the event. And it's everything that you need to navigate the event will be there. All the sessions, all of the different vendors, their booths, their numbers, being able to book some of the or some of the things that are happening on courts may require a reservation, etc. But the really cool part from a business standpoint, the business part of it is the matchmaking, and it's AI based like Tinder. You're swiping, and it's when you're kind of liking people or swiping on certain people that you want to meet with, it knows intuitively their attributes and serves you up different people who might be like that. So
Huh.
while you think you might know everyone in the industry or only want to meet with a couple of people, it'll start to serve you people that are like the other ones that you're interested in, so that like-minded individuals can get together, we can have meetups, or they could, different businesses can meet with different potential buyers that maybe they didn't know were there too.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so our technology is amazing. Everyone has to use it for it to work, but I see no issues. This is a pretty tech savvy industry. Everyone's on social, they're on their phones. We see them being very active. So I have no doubt that part, the app part of this is going to be happening.
And I like that you guys are integrating everyone, even us podcasters. We're going to have a presence there. So I think that's a first for any tennis type of event that I've seen.
It's really important when we started to build this, events can be very, if you have the money, then you get to do the thing. And there are a lot of brands and it's, and obviously we're a for-profit business, so we need to make money, of course.
Yeah.
But we wanted to create an environment where everyone has the ability to participate. No matter if you were just in the beginning and starting your business, if you're an influencer, we look at them as influential people. You don't have to have 1 million followers to be an influencer or to be influential in this industry. So making sure that we're accommodating as much as we can, because we see the type of environment we're creating as even for for new folks or smaller businesses or up and comers or emerging brands, that this could be a jumping off point for them. And we want them to grow with us. So we want to give opportunities for everyone to be able to share as much as they can.
And what do you think makes an event special? You're the event expert. What do you think makes an event special?
I speak a lot about experience, and people take experience as like, oh, it's this cool thing that I was able to Instagram and like I get to talk about. And that is certainly a big part of experience. I think that's the engagement part of experience, but there's so much more that comes before that to get you to that point. So while you can just throw up a really cool photo wall and call it a day and do some interesting things, I think there's an entire layer before that of making sure that people understand who we are as a brand, what we're trying to accomplish, how do you navigate our event, how do you engage with us, what kind of content, what do we bring to the table, how do you navigate the show properly. There's just a lot of things that affect someone's experience coming to an event, a lot of little things. And what I discovered in my time working in this field is that for every negative experience that happens or negative thing, I need 3 positives to counterbalance that. And when you know that, no event is perfect, and there's always going to be things that go wrong, people that are unhappy. I mean, that's the way it is. But if you understand that you need to have other moments that you can nail, we can't control the weather and whether you get a bad drive in, but we certainly can control what registration looks like, and that we're greeting you with a really smiley face. We're hoping that we hope that there are long lines, but not really long lines. It's a catch-22. We want lots of people there. We want to make sure we're controlling the flow and people aren't wasting time. Those are little things that to me make an event really special. You don't realize are happening behind the scenes, but that can really create a lot of friction if they're not done well. On top of that, obviously creating moments, like I said, like on the court, being able to connect with each other, meet new people. I've been emailing every registrant that comes into our system to just find out like why, like what, like you're believing in us in the first year that we're doing this. And that's really important and special to me in particular.
Yeah.
What do you want to see here so that we understand the needs of all of the folks who are coming and to try and put on something as close to that as we can get.
Are you going to have any special appearances?
Hopefully, yes. Whether they're announced or unannounced is a different question. There will be a
Okay.
few. We are working still on that. Obviously, there are a lot of folks that are in town because of the Miami Open, the APP pickleball tournament. So there will hopefully be a couple on our stage. We have a couple of pickleball folks who will be up there, but a couple of big names we're working on. But they'll probably be closer to the event that we announce them when we have schedules.
Yeah, cool. What's your favorite tennis event that you've been to?
I mean, there's the US Open is pretty magical. I think it's such a fun, I mean, I lived in New York for 12 years. I've been to a handful of US Opens, and what that does to the city and the energy, having lived there, it was always just something really special. I know maybe that's a little cliche, but I think I guess technically you could call me a New Yorker. I was there longer than 10 years. The energy that it brings to the city was just really special.
I will never forget what I felt the first time I went to the US Open, because I took the train like many people do. You take the train and then like those doors open, you come out and it's like boom, right there. It's huge. It's like
it's a massive campus. It's iconic, it truly is. And the whole campus and everything that happens around outside of all the different things that are it's just a really, as an event person too, who loves and lives and breathes experiences, they do it. It's an amazing time.
Yeah, I know. I love it. And what about demographic wise? Do you think that this is an event for, I don't know, younger people, or is this for like more professionals? What do you think?
It's across the board, which is why it was really hard figuring out what our brand looked like, the language that we used, how we presented ourselves, because, there are newcomers who are in their 20s who have companies that are popping up and things that are there. And we know that there's a huge demographic of paddle and pickleball in the early stages of their life. We have a kids' day, that's our kids' morning on Sunday morning, that families can come and you can bring your kids.
Oh, wow.
Through, folks who have been in the industry on the business side for 30 plus years. So I truly think that that's the cool part about this, is that anybody is welcome. The joining force is that you love racket sports, and you might just love watching them. You might love playing them. You might love being in the business, but I think demographic wise, we're going to be all over the map.
Okay. So even kids then.
Yeah, we did it. We were doing a 2-hour kids morning on Sunday morning. USTA is helping us with that. And I mean, it could be really fun for somebody who's maybe they live in town, or they're in town for a long weekend, to go to the Miami Open and stop by RacquetX to do some on-court stuff with their family and their kids.
All right, cool. And RacquetX, is the X for expo? Like, is that basically
experience?
Okay. I was thinking it was like a RacquetX.
Started as expo, but I quickly changed that to experience.
I like that. What's been the grand slam moment and the double bagel moment of your career, or your playing tennis moment, whatever you want to share, but the grand slam being the high, and the double bagel obviously being the low. It can be in the event world because you've done some pretty big events. So
yeah, no, I mean, it's some interesting stuff. I mean, it's probably not like the big stuff that were my highs. It were like a lot of like interesting wins, definitely. COVID was really hard for people in the event world. Everything stopped. So I would say, it was just hard. So I think personally it was low. It was scary. I did okay. Obviously I'm still here, and it's okay. But it was as a small business owner who had some responsibility to some employees. That was hard. COVID was really hard, navigating what was going to happen, when would events come back, and also how to navigate it. I was consulting for companies and some really big events at the time, and it was, none of us knew. It was unknown territory and uncharted water. So that was a low. At the same time, I think it was a challenge, but in a good way. It forced me to think differently and think bigger, and not rest on a lot of laurels that I had, because I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, forced you to think of different things too, right? Like Now, Zoom used to be not that big, and after the pandemic, like everything's on Zoom. A lot of the events were like Zoom based, basically.
Yeah, and it really forced, and not enough of the industry followed suit, in my opinion, but that's a separate conversation. But it forced everyone to come back differently, in my opinion, which is why, building RacquetX the way we're building it, where it's not, this isn't a trade show. It's so much more than that. It's truly an experience, but you'll still be able to do business here, but you'll be able to have some fun here. And I think I think we're being honest with ourselves about what this is, what it looks like. I think COVID really forced me to hone in on what was truly important to the audiences, because it's harder to get people to leave their homes, to travel, to pay for stuff, to spend their time there. It's valued differently right now. So I think that while that was a really hard time, it also brought out some really good things, I think, for me and how I design. So maybe that's a cop-out answer. I mean, I've done some really cool stuff. I mean, I ran the largest cruise shipping event in the world for a couple of years, a long time ago. And I mean, the experience, the highs that I had there. I mean, there was some really cool stuff that I got to do. I got used to get invited to all the inaugural sailings of things. So I was on the first cruise ship that was purpose built, meaning it's built specifically for a region that went from Shanghai to Nagasaki, which was wild because everything was smaller and I'm pretty tall. But there's some very cool moments. Probably needed a martini in my hand to talk about them. But I would say the pros and cons during the last couple of years of COVID. For me, I think we came out of this and I feel like I designed a lot better and a lot calmer. I'm not as, my anxiety's much calmer, etc. But during the time, it definitely didn't feel that way.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I also wanted to ask you, just for the coaches listening, a lot of times we have to run events ourselves. We have to run tournaments
For a lot.
or even social events. So I don't know, do you have any advice for coaches running events? What's something that we should always keep in mind when running an event?
Yeah, the experience, I could send you, I have like a whole, it's like a trademarked methodology that I have of how to think about designing an event and how to like what to think about to get people to have the most engagement as possible. But what I always recommend doing is I do like a day in the life and like a pre-mortem. So it's, you basically walk through it. If I'm a player or an attendee or a ticket holder, or whatever that looks like, we physically all went to Florida a couple weeks ago, went to Miami. We all stayed at a different one of our hotels from our room block. We all came a different way. One drove, flew into different airports, etc. So like, we're truly trying to see what the vulnerabilities might be that we can control and what we can't control. We can't control a lot of them, but if we realize that, like, oh shoot, I did an event in Fort Lauderdale, a really big one, it was like 13,000 people a long time ago. We realized that there was gonna be a huge traffic issue on the way in. We got the city to change the traffic lights for us. So like, we wouldn't have done that if we didn't experience the traffic issue ourselves. So to me, it's always like thinking about what can go wrong, the potential things that can go wrong before they go wrong, and then figuring out if there's a solution to them. And if there isn't, that's okay, but know what your plan B, your plan C's could be to try and like mitigate it. Cause like I said earlier, you need a lot of positives to counterbalance one negative that might happen. So that's always my thing. It's like, look at like, what could go wrong, list it out and figure out what you can fix before it goes wrong.
Yeah, be mindful of people and put yourselves in their shoes.
We're human, we're all human, and like, people show up to events. I call it like experience mindsets. Like, yeah, you might be a coach, you might be a club and looking for different things at RacquetX, but like, you're a human first. And like, maybe your kid's sick at home and you didn't want to be here, but you had to be here. You're coming in and you might not be in the best headspace walking into the event. But how do we help you change that? You know what I mean? How do we be empathetic to things that might be happening in your life? How do we make things as easy as possible for you to get from point A to point B so you get the things that you need out of what we're doing? And how do we service you? And I think it's really important to remember that not everyone reads emails. They don't. I'm like, before they go to an event. And I know how many times
so many emails.
But it was in the email. It's like an organizer. Think about, you're going through all these details. And like, I'm the worst. PGA show, I didn't read any emails they sent me, none. So like, I show up, I'm that person, and I plan events. So like, I show up and I'm just like, where am I supposed to go? I want science to tell me, or I want people to tell me. I'm not going to read about it. So thinking about how different people how different types of people do different things is really important. And we try and always like satisfy all of them if we can.
That's so funny that you mentioned that, because so I went with Ed, who you know, and he had it all planned out. Like he knew who he was gonna talk to, what booths he was gonna
Yeah.
look at. And he's like, "What do you want to look at?" And he's asking me questions. I'm like, I have zero expectations. I have no idea. I'm here to see what it's all about. And like, I didn't even open an email. I didn't even have like
You
my
both have a podcast, you both like, so so if you're looking at it from like the organizer standpoint, most of them would put you in the same bucket. And one might have a great experience and the other one might not, because it wasn't easy for you. And again, I'm using this as an example, but I thought they did a good job. You might just be wandering around being like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here,
yeah.
because you didn't prepare. Okay, but there are things that we as organizers can do for people who don't prepare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Show up and like, let's just in the app, I didn't plan my session. Just tell me I'm a coach. Here are all the things, like just look up all the things. And then if you were able to just pull up on our app, I'm a coach and here are all the things that we suggest you take a look at. We plan out your afternoon. Like that's what I want. I want someone just to tell me where I'm supposed to go. I don't want to have to think about it.
Yeah.
So I always recommend, like it's a little bit harder, but in the end, people tend to be a little more satisfied if you can do that.
Yeah. And the PTR, actually, I'm going for the first time to the PTR conference, and they have an app, which I didn't know about. Somebody like messaged me like, "Hey, I couldn't find you on there." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know that there was one." So I downloaded it, and it's actually really cool. Like it has all the information, and I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah,
this is so helpful." So I'm glad to hear that
exactly.
there's going to be one too.
You don't have to like lose a business card or like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all that stuff, like, and those little things really make a big difference in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Robyn. This was really fun, and I can't wait to see you at RacquetX. I hope that it's not too stressful, and you take some time off and celebrate
No
after.
one's gonna hear from me in April, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, good. You need to take like a long vacation after that. I'm sure.
Oh yes, but I can't wait to see you there. And we're really excited to make this thing come to life.
Yeah, and everyone should support this. I say, and that's what I was telling Ed. It's like everyone in the tennis industry or rackets industry should support this, because it's exciting. It's something new. We've never had anything like this. So you got to show the support. You got to show up. If you can make it, like share the information with others, because this is how we make our industry better, is
It's how
supporting things like this.
Yeah, it's how I think we're all gonna keep the momentum going and continue to
Yeah.
grow and get better. And we love the support. The industry across the board has been so incredible supporting this. So I really think we hope we do our part to drive something and create something really special, and then keep building on that momentum for years to come.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to be there. All right. Well, thank you so much, Robyn.
Thanks.